Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The wind howled across the barren landscape of Zyphora 4, a desolate planet where strange, luminescent flora thrived in the shadows of jagged rock formations. The sky was a tumultuous mix of purples and blacks, neon storms roiling above, crackling with energy. Each crack of lightning was a reminder of the danger lurking just beneath the surface. Asher adjusted the visor on his helmet, scanning the alien terrain through thick clouds of dust that flared like smoke. His heart raced with excitement and trepidation as he toggled the controls on his wrist console. Only a year into his career as an intergalactic explorer, he had traveled light years from Earth, seeking the thrill of discovery and adventure. But that thrill was balanced precariously with the weight of his past failures. He couldn't afford another mistake. Rumors had circulated about an indigenous species tormenting those brave or foolish enough to venture into their territory. Asher was determined to confront what the reports described as beasts. He pulled up the schematics of the area, his mind racing with thoughts of glory. But deep down, shadows of doubt crept into his psyche. What if he encountered something he couldn't comprehend? Suddenly, movement caught his eye, a dark silhouette darting among the ferns and strange, glowing plants. Asher's breathing accelerated as he grasped the rifle slung across his back. It had been years since he encountered any hostile life forms, but the stories lingered in his mind. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on edge. With careful, practiced movements, he crept closer, adrenaline surging through his veins. He nearly stepped on a vibrant, bioluminescent flower that pulsed gently in the dusk. The silhouette moved again, and instinct kicked in. He raised his rifle, heart hammering as the creature emerged from the underbrush. Before him stood a figure shrouded in mystery, a creature unlike anything he'd ever seen. It towered over him with sinewy limbs and an ornamental symmetry that was at once stunning and terrifying. Its skin shimmered in shades of deep emerald, and its eyes glowed like twin moons against the darkening sky. Asher felt a shiver run down his spine, an intoxicating mix of fear and fascination. The creature's intimidating stance shifted, and for a moment, it seemed to regard him with a curious tilt of its head. Asher tightened his grip, his finger hovering over the trigger. Had the stories been true? The creature looked almost human, but yet so alien. With a deep breath, he took aim. His heart screamed at him to reconsider, but fear won out. Before he had time to think, he fired, one sharp crack of energy piercing the stillness of the air. The creature let out a resonant cry, a sound that echoed in Asher's ears, twisting something poignant within him. As it collapsed to the ground, the sound of its pain sent shockwaves through his consciousness. Asher rushed forward, ready to assess the damage he had wrought. He dropped to his knees, breathless, feeling the weight of his decision wrap around him like cold steel. Peering down, he prepared for the worst. Then it happened. The creature rolled onto its back, looking up at him with wide, shimmering eyes. In that profound moment of recognition, a whisper escaped its lips, cutting through the chaos within his mind. "Why did you hurt me?" Asher's heart raced, pounding against his ribcage as he knelt beside the fallen creature. The mix of regret and disbelief flooded his senses. He had not only shot an unknown being, but he had wounded something that appeared to be conscious, something that had spoken to him. The internal conflict brewed like a storm, and he felt the ground shift beneath him. The creature's shimmering eyes, haunted yet filled with an unexpected depth, held his gaze. Asher's mind grappled with the reality that what he thought was a fearsome beast had intelligence and emotion. He had been taught to see the alien species through a lens of fear, but this was a being, not a monster. Asher struggled to find his voice, the weight of his actions squeezing his throat. I thought you were dangerous," he stammered, a mix of shame and fear pulsing through him. "I didn't mean to hurt you." The creature's eyes widened as it gasped, a sound both beautiful and painful, echoing through the stillness. "You thought I was a beast." It paused, struggling to sit up. "You do not know me." Asher's heart sank, realizing the depth of his ignorance. "What are you?" His words felt inadequate, trivial in light of the moment's gravity. He reached out a hand hesitantly, as if fearing his presence might inflict more harm. "I am Gianna," it replied, the name resonating like a melody in the alien air. "I am an Inhakian, and I do not wish to fight. I protect my home." Her voice was rich and melodic, surprising Asher with its warmth. Asher's mind raced, trying to reconcile everything he had been taught about interstellar life. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I was trained to see you as a threat." The realization settled like lead in his stomach. The stories of beasts had been nothing but fear-mongering, masking a reality he was now painfully aware of. Gianna shifted, wincing as she moved. The radiant glow of her skin dimmed in response to the pain, and Asher's protective instincts flared. Without thinking, he dropped his rifle, scrambling to check the wound. It was not deep, but the sight of her luminous blood sent a jolt of horror through him. "I need to help you." "Help?" She looked at him warily, the mistrust lingering in her ethereal eyes. "You wished to help me after harming me." "It wasn't right," Asher insisted, desperation coating his words. "Please, just let me fix this." Slightly more at ease, Gianna nodded, and Asher worked to bandage her wound with strips torn from his jacket. The intimacy of the moment hung thick in the air, a fragile thread woven between two worlds. He focused on her wound, the warmth of her body bleeding through the fabric, and he felt a strange connection growing in the quiet space. As he wrapped the makeshift bandage around her arm, his fingers brushed against her skin, and Gianna inhaled sharply, a flicker of surprise crossing her face. Their eyes locked for a moment, an unspoken understanding passing between them. "Why did you come here?" Gianna whispered, her voice low and melodic, reflecting sadness and curiosity. "Does your kind not fear the unknown?" "Maybe we should fear it less," Asher replied, his heart thrumming in rhythm with the pulse of the alien landscape around them. In that moment of shared vulnerability, the barriers between them began to dissolve. Asher realized that this was not just an encounter marked by violence. It was a chance for understanding, for connection across the chasm of their cultures. As Gianna's gaze softened, relief washed over her features, and Asher felt a swell of hope. They were not enemies. They were individuals, forged from pain and misunderstanding, reaching for something more. But the moment was interrupted. The quiet was shattered by the echoing sounds of transport ships landing in the distance, the low hum of engines reverberating through the air. Suddenly, the reality of Asher's predicament threatened to overtake the fragile bond they had begun to forge. Asher's training kicked in, and panic surged within him. "They've sent reinforcements," he exclaimed, his eyes darting towards the horizon. "We need to. Your kind will come for me," Gianna interrupted, a mix of dread and defiance painting her features. "They will not understand. I won't let them hurt you." Asher felt anger flare inside him, determination mingling with his fear. Gianna stared at him, uncertainty mixing with something else, something that hinted at trust forming like a delicate thread. "Then we must move quickly," she said, grasping his hand firmly. With that, Asher and Gianna vanished into the thick underbrush of Zyphora 4, each step pounding with the rhythm of their racing hearts. A new reality was emerging, one where their fates were bound together against the impending storm of conflict. The dense underbrush of Zyphora foreclosed around Asher and Gianna as they sprinted away from the clearing. The vibrant trees towered above, intertwining to create a natural canopy that filtered the eerie twilight. Deep basketball green vines dangled like curtains, hiding their movements from the searching eyes of the human military. Panic surged within Asher. He could hear the shouts of his fellow operatives echoing through the trees, their voices growing closer. Focus, he told himself, forcing himself to dismiss the fear that threatened to consume him. He glanced at Gianna, whose expression was fierce and determined despite the wound on her arm. There was something breathtaking about her, a raw strength that made him feel both protective and drawn to her all at once. "Where should we go?" Asher asked, his breath heavy with exertion. "There is a cave nearby," Gianna replied, her knowledge of the terrain evident as she led him deeper into the forest. "It is hidden from view. If we reach it, we can hide until they pass." "Okay," Asher nodded, trusting her instincts. Every moment mattered, and he didn't know the landscape nearly as well as she did. As they pressed on, the sounds of the search squads faded behind them, swallowed by the thick vegetation. The atmosphere was charged with tension and uncertainty, and shadows seemed to dance at the corners of Asher's vision. He felt the weight of his decision heavy on his shoulders. He had made a choice to protect Gianna, but was it the right one? Glancing at her face, he saw a mix of fear and resolve mirrored in her eyes. "You should be safe," he reassured her, forcing a confident smile. "Their logistics won't extend beyond what they know." Gianna's lips curled into a small smile, but the concern didn't leave her gaze. "You must understand, Asher. They do not know me, but they have been told stories of my kind. They see me as a savage beast." She paused, her voice gentle yet firm. "What you did, it is more than a simple mistake. To them, I am an enemy." Asher felt the implications of her words dig deep into him. "But I don't see you that way," he urged. "You're so much more than what they think." Tension crackled in the air as they finally stumbled upon the cave, its entrance concealed by a thicket of bioluminescent ferns that pulsed softly in the dark. Gianna pushed the branches aside, and they slipped into the cool darkness, a brief reprieve from the chaos outside. The cave's interior was damp and echoed softly with their movements. He could see faintly glowing minerals embedded in the walls, casting a surreal light that illuminated their surroundings. As they settled deeper inside, Asher could feel Gianna's presence intertwining with the shadows, drawing him in like a magnet. "We should be safe here for a while," Gianna said, her voice echoing softly in the stillness. She leaned against the cool stone, taking a breath, her expression finally shifting to one of vulnerability. He could see the pain etched across her features, a reminder of how close to death she had come at his hands. "You need to rest," he urged softly, instinctively sharing the warmth of his body to shield her from the chill of the cave. "We can talk together." Gianna nodded, her eyes meeting his, a flicker of gratitude illuminating the depths of her gaze. "You're different from the others." "What do you mean?" Asher asked, intrigued. "You did not want to kill me," she replied, a hint of surprise playing on her lips. "You saved me after hurting me. Most beings, most of my kind, would never understand that kind of choice." A silence stretched thin between them, and Asher absorbed her words, feeling the weight of their truth. I was afraid," he admitted, "but I realize fear can't dictate my actions. It should never dictate anyone's feelings." As their connection deepened, Asher's gaze drifted down to Gianna's arm, the makeshift bandage barely holding together. "Let me take a look," he said softly. Gianna hesitated but nodded, her breath hitching slightly as Asher unwound the fabric gently, revealing the delicate iridescent skin marred by a wound that was beginning to heal. The sight struck him. How could something so beautiful be harmed? "Does it hurt?" Asher asked, meeting her gaze. "No more than the weight of the unknown," Gianna replied, her voice light despite the pronouncement. She smiled, a small, lopsided thing that sent warmth blooming through him, a reminder of the fragile beauty of this moment. Asher's fingers brushed against her skin, and he felt the magic move between them, a thread of connection weaving deeper. "You're strong," he remarked, feeling deep admiration for her resilience. Possessing that kind of strength is rare, especially in times like these. Before Gianna could reply, the distant sounds of footsteps echoed through the cave. The soldiers were drawing near, their voices cutting through the calm like a knife. Instinctively, Asher nudged Gianna behind a rock formation, shielding her from view. "Listen," he whispered, leaning close, his voice barely audible. "I'll draw their attention. You stay hidden. We can figure this out." "No," Gianna's eyes flared with defiance. "I will not let you sacrifice yourself for me." Asher's heart raced as he processed her words. The intensity in her gaze was unlike anything he had experienced. "It's not a sacrifice, Gianna. It's a way for us to survive. Together we will survive, she insisted. Let them come to us. The footsteps grew closer, and Asher's instincts screamed to flee, but he couldn't shake the connection he felt with her. He shared a look of understanding with Gianna, the urgency pulsating between them. We'll stand together then, as one. In the enveloping darkness of the cave, their bond solidified, strength pooling between them. As the soldiers' voices seeped into the cavern, denouncing Gianna in tones full of contempt, Asher felt a resolve crystallize within him. Stay close, he murmured, ready to face whatever threat awaited them as he swung around the corner, determined to protect the being that had unexpectedly awoken something deep within him. Asher took a deep breath and steeled himself against the impending confrontation. The dim light from the glowing minerals reflected off his helmet as he crouched low, his heart racing in anticipation of the soldier's arrival. He felt Gianna's presence beside him, an unspoken promise of solidarity, swirling in the dark. Remember, let me do the talking, Asher instructed, casting a sidelong glance at her. There was an air of authority in his voice, masked by a thin veneer of calm. He could sense her nod in the dim light, though he was acutely aware that it might be her trust, not his command, that mattered most. The footsteps drew closer, pounding on the cave floor with an urgency that sent echoes bouncing between the cold stone walls. Voices reached them, commands and shouts reverberating through the space. Search every crevice. She must be close. Asher's blood ran cold as the soldiers drew nearer. He put his back against the rock formation, shielding Gianna from view, ready to protect her at all costs. Her presence was a silent comfort, a reminder that they were in this together. Clear that section, one voice barked, and footsteps approached the very area where they concealed themselves. Asher's grip tightened on his rifle, anticipation coiling inside him like a spring. Then a soldier stepped into the small opening they had hidden within, scanning their hiding space. Asher's breath caught in his throat as his mind raced with options. Nothing here, the soldier called over his shoulder, but his eyes lingered suspicious. I'll check again. Quickly, the soldier retreated to the larger group standing nearby, and Asher's heart hammered loudly in his chest. He signaled for Gianna to stay down as he prepared to step out, but he could feel her anxiety radiating in the air around them. The commanding officer, a grizzled veteran named Captain Reynolds, took charge. That creature is dangerous. It may have struck one of our men. They have to be nearby. His voice was laced with both fury and fear. Asher clenched his jaw at the mention of danger. The idea of Gianna as a threat infuriated him, but he couldn't let his emotions blind him to the reality. This was a chance to negotiate. I'll confront them, Asher whispered to Gianna. Stay here. No, you will do nothing alone. Gianna replied fiercely, her eyes flaring with determination. If they see you with me, they will not listen to reason. We must find a way to convince them. Asher nodded, realizing she was right. They had to confront this together. Their bond could intimidate those who saw only fear instead of the truth. Okay then, let's hope they listen, he murmured. With renewed resolve, Asher stepped out from their cover, rifle held low but ready. Gianna followed closely behind, her posture tall and unyielding, projecting strength even amidst the uncertainty. The soldiers turned, eyes wide with shock and disbelief as they encountered the sight before them. Two beings standing side by side in defiance. Asher's heart raced as he prepared for hostility. But rather than weapons, he raised his hands in a universal gesture of peace. Stop, Asher called out, his voice clear and firm. I'm here to talk. Gianna, she's not a threat. Gasps echoed from the soldiers. Captain Reynolds took a step forward, fire in his eyes. You're siding with that beast, he accused, face contorted in disdain, after it attacked one of our own. She's not a beast, Asher insisted, the heat of the moment igniting a flaring passion within him. She's intelligent, capable of understanding. I made a mistake, and I'm trying to make it right. A murmur of uncertainty rippled through the ranks, but Reynolds refused to back down. The rumors say your kind are ruthless. Have you been enchanted by her? Look how easily it dispatched members of our team. Enough! Gianna's voice rang out, rich and powerful, cutting through the tension like a blade. She stepped forward, exposing herself, unfurling the stories left untold. You know nothing of me. I seek peace for my people, just as you do for yours. Survival for both is possible if you put down your weapons. The soldiers exchanged glances, uncertainty blanketing the group. Asher dared to hope as he noticed a few hesitating, lowering their rifles slightly, absorbing the weight of her words. Tell us your truth, he urged, stepping aside to give Gianna the floor. Let them see what lies beyond fear. Gianna glanced at Asher, gathering strength from his presence. In a moment of clarity, she launched into her narrative, the truths of her life, the struggles of her people, and the myths that twisted their realities into fearsome tales. She spoke of love, of loss, and of hope, her voice resonating with deep sincerity. The soldiers listened, enthralled in a way they hadn't anticipated. The tension began to ebb. Asher watched as revelations swept through their eyes. The dawning recognition that this creature before them was intricately woven into the tapestry of life on Zyphora 4. Do you see now? Gianna concluded, her gaze sweeping across the soldiers. We are not so different. We all desire to live in peace. We can help each other. Captain Reynolds stood silent, the weight of Gianna's words lingering in the air like a haunting melody. Asher felt the tide shift as he perceived the barriers churn inward, and hope began to bloom. But amidst the hopeful silence, Asher's heart seized as he felt the ground beneath him tremble. A sudden rumble echoed through the cave. What was that? He gasped, panic piercing the moment. I don't know, Gianna answered, her eyes widening in alarm. Captain Reynolds barked orders, but the ground shook violently, sending soldiers reeling as the cave walls began to crack. Get out! We need to move! He yelled, fear spreading like wildfire. In an instant, chaos erupted. Asher grabbed Gianna's arm, pulling her toward the cave entrance, while the soldiers scrambled for safety. Together, they raced deeper into the cave, dodging falling debris. The sounds of battle faded behind them, and for a moment, Asher and Gianna found themselves in a safe alcove just beyond the cave's entrance. They stood in the dim glow, breathing heavily as the rumbling subsided. That was too close, Asher murmured, shaking as adrenaline coursed through him. Gianna looked at him, the connection between them palpable, solidifying their bond further. We've overcome fear with understanding, she whispered, a smile breaking through her own apprehension. But now, we must ensure it doesn't end here. Asher nodded, the resolve within him hardening. They would face whatever lay ahead together, an inseparable force against the unknown. As the tremors beneath their feet settled into an uneasy calm, Asher and Gianna stepped into the light. The chaos of the earlier confrontation lingered in their minds, but their focus now shifted to the fragile bond they had forged amidst the turmoil. Are you okay? Asher asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Gianna's resolve was unwavering, yet he sensed the weight of uncertainty resting on her shoulders. Yes, she replied, but her gaze wandered. But this may not be over. Your people may still not accept me. We won't let it end like this, Asher stated, determination flooding his voice. I'll talk to them, to Captain Reynolds. We can work together to foster understanding. Gianna smiled, a flicker of hope igniting in her heart. You fight for what you believe, Asher, and that strength gives me courage. Her words wrapped around him like a warm embrace, heartening his resolve. Days passed as tensions remained palpable. As Asher worked tirelessly to bridge the gap between worlds, he and Gianna found themselves drawn into one another's lives in ways that transcended mere friendship. The connection they shared deepened, both in communication and intimacy. One evening, under the radiant moons of Zyphora 4, they found themselves side by side in a secluded glade illuminated by the glow of alien flora. The air hummed with an electric charge, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Do you think humans can truly understand Inhakian customs? Gianna asked, her voice soft as she gazed at the stars above. I believe they can if they're given the chance, Asher replied, taking her hand. He turned toward her, his heart pounding as he leaned closer. But first, we must understand each other fully. Gianna's breath caught in her throat as she sensed the weight of his words. You wish to know me. To truly know me. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something eternal passed between them, a recognition of the bond that had formed out of fear and misunderstanding. Asher felt an overwhelming urge to connect with her, to share in the depths of her experience. Yes, he whispered. I want to understand everything that makes you you. With that, they closed the distance, their lips brushing in a tentative kiss. Sparks ignited between them, a magnetic pull drawing them together as they melted into one another, and instincts began to overtake the cautious rationality they had held onto. As passion enveloped them, Gianna's fingers brushed through Asher's hair, and he could feel her heartbeat synchronize with his. They sank deeper into each other, their souls intertwining in a dance as ancient as time itself. The world around them faded, leaving only the two of them in that sacred space. In their embrace, they transcended their differences, human and Inhakian, earth and star. It was a profound mating of souls, bodies melding together in an intoxicating fusion of warmth and magic. Asher cradled Gianna close, and he felt the heart of her being resonate with his own. They surrendered to the rhythm of their shared connection, a tapestry woven from intertwining threads of love, trust, and understanding. The act of mating became a celebration of their differences, transforming fear into an inseparable bond. As dawn broke, the glow of the emerging sun bathed them in warm light. They lay entwined, hearts humming in the afterglow of their union. The barriers that once stood between them now beautifully blurred. Together, we can change the fate of our people, Asher said softly, brushing a strand of hair from Gianna's face. Your world and mine can coexist. Gianna smiled back, her eyes shimmering with the promise of a shared future. And together, we will show them what it means to truly understand one another. Asher stood before the collective of soldiers, the sun filtering through the trees as he gathered the courage to speak. Gianna stood beside him, radiating a quiet strength that fortified his resolve. Listen, he shouted, bringing clarity to the chaos that had initially surrounded his people. What you see as a beast is a being shaped by her past, just as we are. Gianna is more than what the stories depict. She is capable of love, strength, and trust. Whispers of doubt rippled through the ranks, but Asher pressed on. I've learned from her, and you can too. We can unite, learn from each other, and thrive together on this vibrant planet. Gianna stepped forward, her gaze steady. On my part, I will vow to protect your world just as fiercely as I protect my own. We can find common ground. All it takes is the willingness to understand. As the soldiers exchanged uncertain glances, some began to nod, slowly acknowledging the truth of their words. Captain Reynolds stepped forward, the weight of his previous hatred dissipating as understanding flickered in his eyes. Perhaps we should give this relationship a chance, he finally conceded. Let us explore the possibilities of coexistence. Asher and Gianna exchanged a glance, a spark igniting within them as they realized the journey ahead might be fraught with challenges, but they would navigate it together. In the following weeks, the worlds began to intertwine. Humanity and Inhakian embraced a new partnership, exchanging knowledge and customs. The stories that once fueled fear transformed into tales of understanding. As for Asher and Gianna, they remained the bridge between both worlds, forging a path built upon love and respect. They stood together under the twin moons of Zi-4, hands clasped, hearts intertwined, a testament to how healing begins when one looks beyond fear into the light of another. We are the hope for both our species, Asher whispered as they gazed at the stars above. Together, we can reshape the future. And together, Gianna replied, leaning closer, we will show them the beauty born from understanding. And in that moment, they knew their story, a tale of unexpected love, healing, and unity, was just beginning.